The morning of Daniel's birthday began quietly, but inside Emily's mind, nothing was calm. She stood in the kitchen of their Seattle home before the sun fully rose, watching the faint light spread across the cloudy sky. The house was silent, except for the soft sound of the coffee machine and the distant hum of cars outside. Daniel was still asleep upstairs, and Emily knew she should feel excited about the surprise she had planned. Instead, her chest felt tight, like she had stepped onto a path she could no longer turn back from. She looked at the small note she had written for him, and then at the breakfast she was preparing: pancakes, fruit, and his favorite dark coffee. Normally, she enjoyed birthdays, especially Daniel's. In the early years of their marriage, she used to plan fun, silly surprises. Once she filled their living room with balloons. Another time she organized a road trip without telling him where they were going. Daniel used to laugh easily back then. That laugh had been one of the first things that made her fall in love with him. But over the last year, things had changed slowly, almost too slowly to notice at first. Daniel still came home from work, still asked how her day was, still kissed her goodnight. Yet something felt missing. It was like a quiet space had grown between them, invisible but always there. Emily had tried to ignore it for months, telling herself it was normal. Life gets busy, people get tired, routines form. But one evening changed everything. It happened 3 months before Daniel's birthday, on a night Emily remembered clearly. Daniel's friend Mark had come over to watch a basketball game. The two men were sitting in the living room, talking late, while Emily cleaned the kitchen. She hadn't meant to listen, but Daniel's voice carried through the hallway. "It's strange," Daniel said quietly. "I have a good life. I really do. But sometimes I feel like I'm just moving through the days without feeling anything new." Mark laughed a little and said something about work stress, but Daniel continued. "It's not Emily's fault. She's amazing. I just miss feeling alive, you know?" "Like when we were younger?" Emily froze when she heard those words. She stayed still for a long moment, her heart beating faster. Daniel didn't sound angry or unhappy with her. He sounded tired, maybe even a little lost. She never told him she heard that conversation, but the words stayed in her mind every day after that. At first she felt hurt, even though he hadn't blamed her. Then she felt afraid. What if their marriage was slowly fading and neither of them knew how to stop it? Emily began thinking about ways to change things. She suggested small trips, movie nights, even dancing classes once. Daniel agreed to some of it, but the spark she hoped to see never fully returned. He smiled and tried, but something deeper still seemed quiet inside him. Weeks passed, and Emily's worry slowly turned into determination. She didn't want their relationship to become one of those marriages that slowly drift apart without a big fight, without a clear reason, just distance growing like a shadow. That was when the unusual idea came to her late one night while she was scrolling through stories online. She found a service that described itself in a strange but interesting way. It offered professionals who helped create meaningful experiences. For couples, people trained to guide emotional moments, surprising situations, or even playful challenges designed to bring excitement back into relationships. At first, Emily thought it sounded ridiculous. She almost closed the page, but she kept reading. The idea wasn't about anything inappropriate or dishonest. It was more like hiring someone to help create a story in real life, something unexpected that could shake people out of routine. Emily spent days thinking about it. The idea made her nervous, but it also gave her hope. If Daniel missed feeling alive, maybe she could give him a moment that felt completely different from their normal life. Eventually, after too much thinking and not enough sleep, she contacted the service. That was how she met Lucas. Their first meeting took place in a quiet cafe in Vancouver, where Lucas lived and worked. Emily had driven there feeling unsure the entire time. She almost turned back twice during the trip. But when she finally sat across from Lucas, she was surprised by how calm the conversation felt. Lucas didn't look like someone mysterious or dramatic. He looked thoughtful and patient, like a counselor mixed with a storyteller. He listened carefully as Emily explained her marriage, Daniel's personality, and the conversation she had overheard months ago. Emily expected judgment or confusion, but Lucas only asked gentle questions. "Do you want to test your husband?" he asked at one point. "Or do you want to remind him what he already has?" Emily answered immediately. "I want to remind him." Lucas nodded slowly. "That matters," he said, "because if we do this, the goal must be connection, not manipulation." They talked for almost an hour. Lucas explained that he sometimes helped couples create surprising experiences, adventures, emotional moments, unexpected meetings that encouraged people to see their partner in a new light again. But he also warned her about something important. Real emotions can appear during these experiences. Lucas said, "Sometimes people learn things they didn't expect." Emily understood the risk. Still, she agreed. Over the next few weeks, they planned a simple but memorable evening for Daniel's birthday. Lucas would arrive at their home and introduce himself as part of the surprise. From there, he would guide them through an evening experience. Emily had chosen a night in the city filled with small challenges, conversations, and moments meant to break routine. The plan wasn't about pretending to be someone else or creating jealousy in a cruel way. It was about energy, change, and reflection. Emily believed it could help. But as Daniel's birthday finally arrived, doubt began to creep into her thoughts. Standing in the kitchen that morning, she wondered if she had gone too far. What if Daniel thought it was strange? What if he felt embarrassed or uncomfortable? What if this plan made things worse instead of better? She tried to calm herself by focusing on small details, cooking breakfast, setting the table, wrapping the small gift she had bought him. The gift itself was simple. A leather notebook Daniel had mentioned wanting months ago. When Daniel finally came downstairs, his hair still messy from sleep, he looked relaxed and surprised to see the decorated table. "Wow," he said with a smile. "This looks serious." Emily laughed softly. "It's your birthday. I had to try." Daniel sat down and looked at her with appreciation. "You always do too much for me." "Not too much," she said. "Just enough." They ate together, and for a while everything felt normal again. Daniel told a funny story from work, and Emily noticed something she hadn't seen in weeks, a spark of energy in his voice. It made her both happy and nervous. She almost considered telling him the truth about the surprise right then, but she stopped herself. The plan was already in motion. Later that afternoon, Daniel opened his small gift and smiled warmly. "Remembered?" he said. Emily shrugged playfully. "I pay attention sometimes." But inside, her thoughts were already moving ahead to the evening. Lucas had texted earlier to confirm he was on his way to Seattle and would arrive exactly at the planned time. The day moved forward. Emily tried to act normal. They watched a show, talked about weekend plans, and even went for a short walk. Outside, Daniel seemed relaxed, unaware that the night would soon take a surprising turn. When evening finally arrived, Emily's heart started beating faster again. She checked the time more than once, trying to hide her nervous energy. Daniel noticed eventually. He said with a small laugh. "You're definitely hiding something." Emily smiled but didn't answer right away. "I told you earlier," she said. "Tonight is special." Daniel leaned back on the couch, curious. "Should I dress up or prepare for something strange?" Emily laughed softly. "Maybe both." The sky outside turned darker, and lights began to glow from the houses across the street. Emily kept glancing at the clock. Every minute felt important now. Daniel noticed again. "You look like you're waiting for someone." Emily took a deep breath. "I am." Just then, the doorbell rang. The sound echoed through the quiet house. For a brief moment, Emily felt frozen. This was the moment she had planned for weeks, yet suddenly it felt completely unpredictable. Daniel stood up slowly and looked at her with raised eyebrows. "Right?" he said. "Now I'm really curious." Emily gave a small nod, trying to appear calm even though her heart was racing. Go ahead, she said gently. Daniel walked toward the door, still smiling, completely unaware that the person standing outside was about to change the direction of his birthday, and possibly the future of their marriage. As Daniel reached for the handle and opened the door, Emily felt a mix of hope and fear rise inside her at the same time, because she realized something important in that exact moment. Surprises can bring people closer, but they can also reveal truths that have been waiting quietly beneath the surface. And she had no idea which one this night would bring. When Daniel opened the door, he expected to see a neighbor or maybe a delivery. Instead, a tall man stood calmly on the porch, dressed neatly, holding a polite smile that seemed prepared for this exact moment. The evening air was cool, and the streetlights had just turned on, casting a soft glow across the quiet neighborhood. Daniel looked at the stranger with confusion, then glanced back at Emily. The man spoke first, his voice relaxed and friendly. He wished Daniel a happy birthday and introduced himself as Lucas. Daniel thanked him automatically, but the confusion on his face didn't disappear. Emily walked forward, feeling the tension in the air, yet she forced herself to stay calm. She had planned this carefully, but now that the moment had arrived, everything felt more real and unpredictable than she imagined. They all moved into the living room, gathering the courage to explain. Lucas remained respectful and quiet, letting Emily lead the conversation. The silence lasted only a few seconds, but it felt longer. Daniel leaned back, clearly puzzled but not upset. He asked what exactly that meant. An evening that felt different from their normal routine. She said that sometimes life becomes predictable, and she wanted this birthday to be memorable, something that would bring excitement back into their lives. Daniel listened carefully, and while he didn't interrupt, his expression showed that he was still trying to understand how this stranger fit into the plan. Lucas spoke gently then. Meaningful moments. He described it simply, saying he guided couples through unique evenings that encouraged conversation, adventure, and reflection. Emily noticed that his shoulders relaxed a little, which gave her hope. She continued explaining that the evening included a planned trip downtown, a dinner with a beautiful view, and a few surprises designed to make the night feel exciting again. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck and let out a small laugh, still unsure what to think. He said he had never had a birthday like this before. Emily smiled nervously and admitted that neither had she. For a moment, Daniel stayed quiet, thinking. The room felt filled with a strange mix of curiosity and emotion. Then he asked Emily why she felt the need to plan something like this. Emily hesitated only briefly before telling the truth. She said she had been worried about the distance she felt growing between them. She told him about the conversation she had overheard months earlier, when he told Mark that he sometimes missed feeling alive. Daniel's expression changed immediately. His eyes widened slightly, and he looked surprised that she had heard that moment. Emily explained that those words stayed with her and made her think deeply about their relationship. She didn't blame him for feeling that way, but she didn't want their marriage to slowly lose its spark. She wanted to do something, anything, to remind them both what they meant to each other. Lucas watched quietly, realizing the conversation had become more personal than planned. He understood that his role might not be needed much longer. Daniel remained silent for a few seconds after hearing Emily's explanation. Then he let out a slow breath. He admitted that he never intended to hurt her with those words. He said he had simply been sharing a feeling he didn't fully understand himself. Life had become routine, work had been stressful, and he sometimes felt like he was repeating the same days over and over. But he also said something important. He told Emily that none of those feelings were about losing love for her. In fact, he had been afraid to talk about it because he didn't want her to think he was unhappy with their life together. Emily listened carefully, and the tension in her chest began to soften. For the first time in months, they were talking openly about something real. Lucas stood up quietly then, sensing that this moment belonged to them. He smiled politely and told them that the evening plan was still ready if they wanted it, but he felt that the most important part of the night was already happening. Daniel looked at him and thanked him for coming. Emily also thanked him, though part of her felt embarrassed that the surprise had turned into such an emotional conversation so quickly. Lucas reassured her with a calm expression and said that sometimes the unexpected is exactly what people need. Then he stepped toward the door and left them alone in the house. After the door closed, the room became quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. It was not heavy or awkward. It felt honest. Daniel looked at Emily for a long moment. There was warmth in his eyes that she had missed for a while. He reached for her hand gently and told her he didn't realize she had been carrying so much worry. Emily admitted that she had been afraid of losing the connection they once had. She explained that she didn't want them to become one of those couples who stay together but slowly stop truly seeing each other. Daniel nodded slowly, understanding what she meant. He told her that he had been feeling stuck in his own thoughts and didn't know how to express it without sounding negative or ungrateful. They talked openly then, more honestly than they had in a long time. Daniel said he missed the excitement they had when they first met, when every plan felt new and every weekend felt like an adventure. But they needed to create them together instead of waiting for them to happen naturally. He said he admired her courage for planning something so unusual just to make him happy, and told her it was love. After a few minutes, the mood in the room changed completely. He asked Emily what exactly Lucas had planned for the night, and a small adventure activity Lucas had arranged to make the evening memorable. Daniel's eyes lit up as she spoke. The excitement in his expression reminded Emily of the man she had fallen in love with years earlier. He stood up and said that if the plan was still possible, they should go and enjoy it together. Emily felt happiness rise inside her. She hadn't expected the night to turn out this way, but somehow it felt better than the original plan. Instead of relying on someone else to guide them, they had already rediscovered something important between them. They got ready quickly, laughing as they prepared to leave the house. The night outside felt fresh and full of possibility. As they drove toward the city, Daniel reached over and held Emily's hand again. He told her he was glad she didn't ignore her feelings and that sometimes people need a wake-up moment to remember what matters most. When they arrived downtown, the rooftop restaurant Emily had booked offered a wide view of the skyline. They talked, laughed, and shared memories during dinner. The conversation flowed naturally, without the quiet distance that had existed before. Daniel even admitted that he had been feeling trapped by routine and needed something to remind him that life could still surprise him. Later, they followed. Through with the small adventure, Emily had planned a nighttime walk across a scenic area overlooking the city. The air was cool and the lights below looked beautiful. As they walked together, Daniel told Emily that the real gift she gave him was not the surprise itself, but the reminder that she cared enough to fight for their connection. Emily said she had only done what anyone would do for someone they loved deeply. They stopped for a moment, looking out over the glowing city, and both felt something new growing between them again by the time they returned home. The house felt different than it had earlier that evening. Daniel hugged Emily warmly and thanked her again for the birthday he would never forget. Emily realized that the professional she had hired had indeed played a role in the night, but not in the way she first expected. Lucas had opened the door to a conversation they both needed. And once that door opened, Emily and Daniel had walked through it together. As they turned off the lights and prepared for bed, Daniel looked at Emily with a gentle smile. He told her that maybe the feeling of being alive doesn't come from big. Sometimes it comes from being honest, from listening, and from choosing each other again even after years together. Emily agreed quietly, feeling a calm happiness settle in her heart. The night had started with uncertainty, but it ended with something stronger than before. And as they fell asleep, both of them knew their story was not about losing love, it was about rediscovering it when it mattered most.